Okay, welcome in everybody. Welcome to the Women's Wellness Network and welcome to our guest today, Sam Piercy. Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm so great, Tammy. Thank you. Well, except as you and I were sharing earlier, yesterday was a bright blue sky, glorious day, and today back on the west coast of Canada, it's raining again. And as I was sharing, your nervous system would kind of like a little bit of level. It's not that I necessarily want it to stay gray. I don't, but
Right.
the up and down of like, oh, it's so beautiful, spring is here, to, oh, nope, not yet.
Fooled you.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
Mother
yeah, yeah,
Nature. She's
exactly.
good at tricking. Yeah, we are here in Southern Ontario and it is full on winter, although today is sunny, beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Um, yes, there's been snow, there's drifts, 3 to 5 feet high outside the door. So it's
Yeah,
just breathing through it and, loving the sun when it's here and loving the snow when it's snowing. And on those gray days, just getting that tea and that blanket and snuggling up and hopefully having a good conversation with somebody like yourself. And here, right, we're across the country from each other. And now we're able to have a conversation. And I think that is so amazing.
yeah.
So, Sam, first of all, you've told us that you are on the West Coast, which I'm a little bit envious of. Everybody knows I'm from the West Coast and I miss it terribly, but that's okay. You're there enjoying it for us, and I'll get weather reports when I need them.
Yeah, exactly.
Besides that, so Sam,
Yes.
you have your own experience, you have your own um, things that you do in the world. But first, I would like to know just a little bit about you, who Sam is. What are the things that make you happy and things that light your spirit up?
That's a really good question. And I think it's a question that everybody needs to ask. And in fact, just as we were sharing, at Christmas, I had kind of a radical encounter with myself for no reason, because no reason other than I've been in this in between season for a long time. Right? We undertook a huge, massive move to be closer to our daughter and now our grandson and her family, and it's beautiful. And we bought this chunk of property, diamond in the rough. We absolutely love the property. We have a grand vision, and everything is beautiful except this in between season while we're waiting for funding. And so you're just sitting there waiting. And at Christmas, I, sometimes the heavies can just come on. That like they don't. It's almost like we have to be so diligent in protecting our energy, just from yourself. So
Right.
at on Christmas Eve, it was pouring rain and it was gray and it was cold, and it's cold in the trailer that we're living in on the property, and I was missing my home that was all sparkled and done up beautifully, in my fireplace, from the church that we renovated as our house before. And I just sunk myself into a pit where I can't live like this, I won't live like this, and I hate my life, which is
Ugh.
stupid because I love my daughter, I love my grandson, I love where we are, I love my husband. We have a new puppy. Like, it was, stupid thinking. But you asked, so what makes me happy? Well, all of those things make me happy. The sunshine makes me happy. Yesterday was spectacular, watching the eagles and the swans and the loons and the cornucopia of ducks. I don't even know what they are. And there was um otters, and the reflect, like it was just such a beautiful day. I could not get enough of yesterday. Our
Right.
daughter and our grandson even came over for a half an hour, and we walked around and we showed him the herons, and he was like, ooh, 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 like those things. They naturally put a smile on your face, but it's so easy to get caught in our thinking, where we should be or how things should be. The coulda, shoulda,
Mm.
wouldas can set in. So I'm somebody that came from a corporate background. I was really successful in finance, but I sold my financial practice to go into teaching. And so most of my background was financial. I, I want to say, let's call it financial wellness, because there was a real integration between the practical. How do you do what the banking system does, not what they tell you to do?
Right.
How do you navigate that in such a way that you stay empowered on a day-to-day basis. Like, don't ever lock yourself into a 5-year mortgage, despite the fact that every mortgage broker, every banker, everybody will tell you how to do that. But I was teaching finance and I was not very good at math, so I had to get my dad to help me when I, when I was I, I needed to understand it.
Nothing
Um,
wrong with that,
as a grown woman, that's what you do is help. So,
right? And good to have somebody to call.
but what I learned during that period of time, Tammy, was that things aren't quite the way we think they are or the way we've been told. And so you start to ask different questions. And so my background is finance, but not conventional finance,
Right.
right? For sure. Everything about conventional finance, to be honest, it in, encourages scarcity.
Right.
It puts us in a box. You have to abide by these rules, and it feeds the system.
Right. And
And
we also know it's so much more difficult for women as opposed to men, still in this day and age.
yeah,
And right, we need to have different ways of being able to look at it so that we can understand it, because I'm sure the system was built on male premise, male thinking, male's understanding and logic and the ways that they do things.
yeah,
So now, it only works for a certain portion of the population. It works for the banks and the financial institutions, but it leaves people like us stranded, not really knowing who to go to or what to do. So
right.
how,
Our whole life is impacted by the financial world. Even
right,
like the educational system, the medical system, the government, like every area of our life is impacted by money. And money, as we know it, is just a decree. Somebody said this piece of paper has value. These numbers on a computer screen, they determine what you can and cannot do.
right,
That's the
right.
bottom line. And then there's rules and policies and procedures. And what's been taught, I didn't know this is where the conversation was going to go, but if you're okay with it, then we will.
Let's go.
Because in terms of wellness, it is the biggest lie that we the biggest lie that we live with. And I say that not to say that, well, you just walk away and it doesn't mean anything. No, because we live in a world where you still have to pay for things. There's a transaction, there's an exchange of value. Well, that value is our energy and it's our mental capacity. It's our nervous system that goes to work to earn a living. Earn is a dead word. Earn as in your earn at ashes.
Mm,
We have this idea that if you don't earn, you don't live. And in this world, that is kind of true unless you're going to completely check out somewhere. But even then, you don't own the land that you live underneath it. You just rent it. You're a tenant on that land. So we don't own anything right now except what we can connect with within our own inner being, right? We filter everything through our mind, like you said, the patriarchy, the
mhm.
male dominated world. It's more intellectual than
Right,
creative, flow, intuitive. And so we've been taught as women to not value that. You're too emotional. It's like,
right.
well, you need to know. You got to be able to come up with some sort of a formula to do this, that, and the other thing. And if you follow that creative stuff, oh, you're never going to make any money. You'll never be able to do this, that. Like we have all these lies and we don't even realize it, right? I just need a
Right.
job. Just need a
The
job. Well,
structure of it. Well, how
yeah,
did you transform from being wearing the clothes and
the
going
pencil
through the
skirt.
role
Yes.
to being, like somebody who actually wants to make a difference and help? Did you have like a moment for yourself that's made that switch for you, or have somebody in your life that you realized that was happening to?
Yeah, I did. And this is actually really relevant for women, I think, because um, I made a lot of money when I was in finance, like relatively speaking. We did really well, and we did stuff and had what you would say is a nice lifestyle. But I realized uh, the first year of me going back to work after our daughter was born, I convinced myself that I was so grateful that we could afford a nanny, that she
Mm.
didn't have to go to daycare, until I realized that I was jealous of my nanny's lifestyle. Not my nanny, because she's awesome, but of her lifestyle.
Right.
And then somewhere along the line, that led to, well, I was doing business development stuff. Business development kind of morphed into personal development. Personal development kind of morphed into like spiritual aspects of things. And somewhere in there, I realized that it was time and money. I had money, but I didn't have time. And eventually, we went away. We were on holidays for a couple of weeks, and I came back. I formed a partnership, and um, it really wasn't working. Not that the partner was great, but what wasn't working was I didn't have any more time, but I was now making less money.
Here.
And so my partner, she just said, if I could come up with the money, would you want to leave? And I said, sure, let me check with my husband. And 2 weeks later, we'd worked out a deal. And all I knew, Tammy, was I was going to be a mom, and I was going to teach, and I was going to write, because I built my practice doing seminars. And I really enjoyed writing. And in those days, you could actually still write your own newsletters. You can't do that anymore in the world of
Mm.
finance. They have to be approved, or wah wah wah. You're right. Somebody else has to tell you what to say.
Mm.
So, um, and that was it. And I organized a workshop called An Introduction to Financial Freedom. And it had a workbook, and I did that for the longest time. And then I kept writing. People knew I knew something about finances, but I now wasn't with anybody. So I was a valuable asset to help them navigate things without the bias of a
Right.
sales ticket. So
More like a
I
consultant. You could be a
I was
consultant with
I
your
was a
own knowledge.
yeah, so I was more of a pure consultant. And a lot of what I ended up having to do was help people find the right kind of professional to work with. And so I developed all of these tools to help them ask questions and to gather the right information. And then I ended up with this whole collection of all of these things. And somebody said, "Oh, you should pull that together into a workbook or something." And so I did that. And the professional organizers were really interested in it, which was interesting to me because I'd always had a passion for home design. And so now I've got this money thing that was of interest to organizers. And from there, I had this workbook, and I thought, oh, this would be a great book, but it needed all the examples. And somebody said, no, the way it is right now, it's a course. And so I had a 12 step, because there was 12 parts to this process that evolved into a whole planning process that integrated the psychology, like success principles, etc., into the practical aspect of making day-to-day financial decisions and organizing your money. And it's still part of something that I bundled with this new prosperity seeds guide, because I started working with this guide in 2002.
Tell
Yeah.
us about prosperity seeds.
So um I'm just gonna squish right down into, so yeah, lots of people have heard of the idea of making a big long list of your desires, like a long list, like 100 or more. And in the world of finance, you always start with, you need a goal. You start with your goal. Well, what I realized as I was working with this list of 100 desires in my financial world and in my training is that people, they couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. They would get to like 12, or they'd make a Christmas list kind of thing, and then they'd be totally stuck. And some of them would get like downright like irritated. It was quite fascinating. And so in my finance background, I realized that that's because we're starting with a lack. We're
Mm.
basically saying, okay, here you are, you lack something for some reason. And so you force yourself to come up against what you don't have, right? Let's say you're like, if you're sick and you focus on, okay, I'm sick, I want to be well, there's a gap. So it's that in between space, right? So what I realized from finance is it had to be balanced. So if you have this long list of desires, you have to balance that out with what you currently have. And so that would be your gratitudes. And for the longest time, I worked with that as like a balance sheet, right? Your assets and liabilities kind of thing. So your gratitudes are your assets. And that concept still works today for sure, 100%. There's now 7 of these big long inventories in prosperity seeds. So gratitudes and desires, but there's I am statements, there's ways to generate income, there's people in your life. Like it's, and what I realized over Christmas is that I've been working with this for so long that I just think that way.
Right.
Because here I was feeling stuck, like, wah, 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 poor me. And it was like sort of, it's like this little bubbling up. It's like, stop it, woman. Like, look at all this great stuff you have. And that I realized that this simple process was a incredibly valuable tool for recognizing where you were stuck, why you were stuck, and how to flow, like how to get back into the flow, almost like a foundation is part of manifestation or even before manifestation in a way, because you got to start from a place of wholeness. You
Right.
can't start from a place of, I hate my life, right?
Right.
It just doesn't work, right?
Yeah, it's like a big black hole and everything just all the positive stuff just gets sucked right in and gets lost.
Yeah,
If we start
exactly.
from right, yeah, we got to start from that solid place.
Exactly. So I started doing daily declarations, and more short-term reels, like short little snippets of teaching. But in my daily declaration, like today's raining, yesterday was a blue sky day, but my declaration today, it's like I feel into it, and as soon as I feel into it, it'll start to flow. Okay, if I try
Right.
to force it, I'm pushing, and I would be motivated because I'm committed to doing it every day. Right? That's pushing, not being inspired, not having it come. So I feel like today's declaration will be something about blue sky days
Mm.
and the prosperity of a blue sky day, even in the grayest, wettest, coldest, darkest, that there is always a blue sky day. Because right now, as you and I are talking, we can both imagine a blue sky day. Like in our mind, it's there, right? You could look out the window and you're going to say, well, you've got a blue sky, but I
It's
don't.
clouding over.
Yeah, okay.
The
But
snow is
like
coming back.
in our mind, we can see that.
Right.
So that's what becomes real. It's like a bridge between where you currently are in the rain and the cold or the blue sky, which is where you're going. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
Yes. Well, yes, because it invokes a whole different feeling as opposed to right, like close your eyes for 1 second and you can't tell if it's gray out or if it's a blue sky, right? So the inside work is the part that really matters. It's not really so much as what the eyes are witnessing
no.
as what the heart is receiving. And if we're not in that receptive feminine mode, then
Mhm.
we're doing that, right? Pushing
Right.
and trying and straining and stressing and pulling our hair out and getting
Yeah, no, well,
crazy.
exactly. We're working off of like being motivated because I gotta, right? You just gotta, versus being inspired because you're in alignment, right? You're there's a coherence with the frequency of what you love to do versus what you got to do just to earn your living, right?
Right.
And we're
Oh,
so
I,
out of
I'm
sync.
like now every time you say that word, I'm thinking, the urn thing, the ashes thing. That is right, one of those plays on in the English language where there's,
There's so
more
much.
than one meaning. Oh,
There's so much of it, and I've had some
yes.
pretty cool. Well, my big a big part of me kind of waking up to seeing things differently came from language. I was always into the dictionary definition, and then I would get into that morphed into etymology, which is the historical significance and development of words, components of words, and right down to the individual letters. And then when you overlay that with the frequency that is carried through the symbols of an S, an A, or an M, or whatever, the and the sound, the frequency, the vibration, you get it. I just did a reel on don't forget to remember, because we're conditioned to don't forget. Well, what's the last thing that lands? The forget and the don't and the
Right.
and they land differently in your body than remember, which is quite a flow, and the it's in alignment. There's
Right.
so much of it. It's so fascinating.
It
And
is fascinating. Oh my goodness. Well, when people work with you, can you give us a little idea of what that would look like for somebody? Say somebody calls you up today and says, "Hey Sam, I love what you had to say. Where do we start?"
what do um thank you for asking. So right now I have the Prosperity Seeds guide, and it's bundled with this other tool called Budgets Uncorked. To again, it's all part of rethinking. No, it's not even rethinking, of becoming aware of how we think about certain things. And it's these simple inventories. I have that as a bundle, and I'll put the link underneath the video with a special coupon for anybody that wants to try it. It's all I can say. It's like, try it, you'll like it. Like Sam I am, green eggs and ham, right? Try it, you may like it. You may find that there is a radical shift in what you realize has been a block and where there's a flow.
Mm.
So there's that. And where I am going with it is I will be very shortly packaging that for people who facilitate in the area of mindfulness, in the area of manifestation, even movement, and the magic of home, I call it. But any people that are facilitating that, because it's a simple process that is extremely profound. And so
Mm.
right now, that's where you can find me, and find me on Instagram and Facebook and your
Oh,
your group.
yes, absolutely. Our group, yes.
Yeah.
Anybody is looking, well, women of the Women's Wellness Network, if you are interested in connecting with Sam, finding out more about what she's doing in the world, maybe connecting with her prosperity seeds, and seeing maybe if there's something that resonates with you, maybe there's something that you didn't notice until maybe with this conversation, or you're just curious because more knowledge, more power. Let's do it. It's not going to hurt us. It is helping us stand on our own 2 feet. It's helping us have a foundation that we can grow from. And what else is there? Really, what else is there, Sam?
Yeah.
Not too much else, I don't think.
No, we do it together. We're connected, right? Whether
Right.
we live thousands of miles away or not, we're still connected and we still feel it. And but the biggest connection that we have to make is the one between our head and our heart, right? And to get back to leading with our heart and to trusting our heart instead of what we see, instead of what somebody else says we should trust. Yeah.
Right. Ugh.
That's
Yeah, that
that's a
S
biggie.
word, I don't know. Always shooting all over ourselves. And I think that is one of those profound movements. If we can get away from doing that, telling ourselves that all the time, it opens up so many other doors that um, are possibilities rather than, you know, the pushing, as you were just mentioning. So is there anything else you would like to share with us before we sign off today?
Um, I just want to thank you for what you're doing, and for like it's obvious that there's a huge heart, and I'm really aligned and connected, and I'm grateful and encouraged by the heart. And so I thank you for the work that you're doing, and for the opportunity to share, and for the showcasing that you do with other people, and what you pour out to other what you pour out in
Mm,
this
thank
direction. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you so much. I mean, it is my pleasure and my honor to bring people like yourself forward for other people to utilize and learn from and grow from and to help. Because if we can't find the people that we connect with and that we resonate with, how can we get better? How can we improve? How can things feel nicer in our lives? There's a lot of craziness going on out there. So
And
we got to
we
take care of
all,
ourselves first, right?
right, we all have something of value, and yet too many times it's like there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or I'm this, or like the I am statements. No, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. Somebody might be too early, or there's always going to be somebody out there to connect with. So yeah, I
Hmm.
really value what it is that you're doing. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, women of the Women's Wellness Network, if you'd like to connect with Sam, we will put all of her information into the comment section and you can look her up. And otherwise, of course, until next time, be well. Thank you so much, Sam.
Wow.